Committee order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Just see the motion die for lack of a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the agenda? Not all those in favor?
Can I get an agenda?
I got an amended agenda.
Wonder you didn't want to second it. Right. Was there any discussion on the agenda? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. We got two minutes. We got minutes from October 8th and then from October 20th.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. If anyone has any conflicts of interest, let us know when we get to the appropriate time. Any public comment? Not.
Mr. Chair, I'm unaware of any, unless the county clerk is.
No, clerk didn't have any. Any information from supervisors not seated as committee members? All right, we're looking for a report and a presentation on the COVID-19 budget update.
Okay, just to give you an update, right now we've incurred about $365,000 in expenses related to COVID. Those include payroll expenses, purchases of laptops, the WebEx licenses, that kind of stuff. We're going to have some more come in the next couple of weeks. The good news is we have about $727,000 from the routes to recovery, plus other funding sources through community services. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be like the storm, and we're going to come close to 90-95% made whole, if not a little better. We have until November 17th to submit our routes to recovery expenses. They extended that. The period did end tomorrow, but the governor just extended it through the 17th to try to capture that money. Sales tax wise, what we've already collected this year, I've got good news on that. We are up 8.4% through October over last year, which is incredible. And then if you look at actual sales tax distributions from the state, because you guys know we're 2 months behind on what we actually receive. Polk County is actually up 13.6% for the year through the end of October. And I've got the county by county breakdown. We actually outperformed almost every single county in the state as far as growth. Some have negative growth, some have pretty flat growth, some of them are around 7 to 10%, but we're at 13.6% for the year so far. That's all I've got.
Questions, comments? How about the space analysis and the bonding update?
If I could give you just a brief overview, and then I'll let Mo make a comment or two. The space analysis was going to be part of our orientation where we presented kind of a walkthrough. Instead, we've decided that not everybody wants to go on that walkthrough, nor should we probably, given the circumstances with COVID. So at the upcoming board meeting, we've asked Mo to put together a pictorial presentation that will show the key areas that we're talking about for the initial upgrade of the mechanical needs of this building. So again, just as a reminder, there's no commitment in the budget that says we have to fund that. That's not the intent, but rather we budget for it so that if we choose to do it, it's there. What we'll do with the pictures on next week's meeting is just give you an overview of what specifically we're talking about so that you can ask questions or see what it is we want to do. Mo, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
No, Vince, I think you covered it all. We'll be putting together that PowerPoint's almost complete for Tuesday's meeting to show some of the conditions and then some of our options on how to proceed for the board and with getting a better picture of what the project would look like.
All right, any questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to discussion and possible action regarding recycling center.
Mo, do you want me to talk about that, or probably I could lead in on that? So, we had I was sick, so I asked for it to be pulled off the agenda because I wanted to speak to it. And then we had, what I've asked, I guess I should just get to the point. I've asked Mo to actually do a little bit broader, like for the committee of the whole. I believe it was going on the committee of the whole. I don't know if it was going to be ready I think we're going to wait a month because this was budget next month. So we're going to wait for this to come out in December board meeting, and that we would educate the rest of the supervisors a little bit on the map of where the recycling dumpsters are, what the program looks like, what kind of money is it needs, how much money are we losing, because there's this false sense of people were putting out false information, including supervisors from our county board, saying that we were going to shut down the recycling center. And I think we just need to do a better job, or I do as the chair. But there's actually people putting notes on containers around the county saying, county board is shutting down the recycling program, right? And then we even had a petition signed by people that said, we don't want you to shut down the recycling center. And clearly, again, it's the activists in the community that are stirring the pot, because the goal is to improve the recycling program, have more recycling dumpsters in the county, and clean up our county more and do it more efficient. That was the goal of the resolution, to tell staff to take a year and study and bring it back to us. So I think this false narrative that got put out there that we're closing a recycling center down, I just felt like we probably need to do a better job as a committee or as a board or as staff to really tell the public what the intent of that resolution was. So at this point, I'd like to just hold off on it until put it back on the agenda in December. So that's my update. I don't know if anyone else had anything to add to that or not.
Anything else on it?
I just want to say that I've been trying to gather some information about it, myself and independently. And I've had a lot of contact from people in the community. And I have explained to them that the current proposed resolution doesn't close it down, but that it looks at alternatives, including privatizing. To present all of that information today or anything like that, but I'm just going to comment that I have overwhelmingly heard from people that they want to retain it and want to improve it. I guess if you want to call those people and label them as activists, you can or you can't. I guess, they're entitled to have an opinion the same as everybody else and to, express it. So
One comment I have, Chair. So, one of the things as a supervisor that I've learned, and this is my opinion again, like it is calling people activists when they misquote things, then I call you an activist. If you're going to misquote what's the reality and you want to push your agenda, I kind of say then you're not really playing fair. But, you know, there again, as a new supervisor, Duncanson, you would, if we're going to work on things, on resolutions, that's what our committee's for. Our committee is for bringing up, when we're in a meeting, asking the questions to staff. That's where you do your work, is in a committee. Like you just commented, I'm doing the work outside of the committee. And that's fine to do it, but to wait till the 11th hour and then to spring information on that, again, maybe accurate, maybe not. You have been elected to represent Polk County, and you're doing it an injustice by not doing your work in committee. That's what I come here for. I come here for the different opinions. I come here for discussion. I come here, we were supposed to work with staff in committee. And some of the new supervisors, again, not saying you're doing this, but what they do is they work outside of committee. And then they call up staff and they take time of staff outside of the committee structure to develop a narrative or their own opinion. And I just urge you and other supervisors, if you want to challenge information or you want to gather more information, you do it in committee, you ask the questions in committee, and I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that's the problem we're having is I was like,
Well, first of all,
oh no, we do sometimes, obviously.
because the information that I have is presented at prior meetings and is from county staff. I'm not going to apologize for doing research, gathering information, and the source of that information is Polk. You know, so
I just bring it up in committee, that's all I got. Let's, gosh, if we're gonna do the right thing for Polk County and we're gonna get the right recycling program in place, we gotta work on it in committee.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mike.
I am muted out of the meeting on the computer. I'm calling in by telephone. I don't know if someone can open it up so I can be unmuted to talk on my computer.
He's muted on his computer, not on the phone.
You're unmuted on your computer, Mike. Somehow you're not connecting. We seen you join the meeting right away at 10, but you didn't connect.
He just muted himself.
You just muted yourself.
Well, I can't.
Can you hear us?
I'm clicking my audio and it's muted.
Unmuted right now.
You're unmuted right now.
I can hear the meeting, but I can't make myself heard.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Can you hear us, Mike?
What?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, we can hear you.
Lag when I'm on the phone.
You're not calling in on the phone right now?
I can hear you on my computer. I can hear you on the phone and I can talk on the phone, but I can't talk on my computer.
You're talking on your computer. You can hang up your phone.
Hey, try hanging up your phone. You're talking on your computer.
I say that again.
Hang up your phone and talk, but we think you're talking on the computer.
Do you hear me now?
Yes,
Do you hear me now?
yes. We can
I
hear you,
got
Mike.
mine through my audio that says it's, okay, well, if you can hear me, that's fine.
Yeah, it's almost like you're in the room with us.
Okay. I don't know
All
why
right.
it's showing that way. Thank you.
All right, how about discussion and possible action regarding amendments and technical budget amendments to the 2021 operating capital budget?
All right, Scott, can you make me a host so I can share my screen? It's not letting me share. All right, while he's getting, okay, I'm about to share my screen with all of you. All right, can everyone see the proposed budget additional funding request policy for board on your screen?
Yeah,
All right, so you were provided this when we presented the budget. These are the roughly 9 or 10 items, additional funding requests made that the administrator did not approve, that referred to the board related to policy and other things. I wanted to go over them real quick. Forestry and Register of Deeds request went to Environmental Services. For the forest roads, the administrator approved $3,000 in a one-time line item for this year. The consideration for Environmental Services was should this be recurring? The decision or the recommendation from Environmental Services was try it for 1 year and see how it goes. The reason this is policy related is we presently budget for capital projects as capital projects, even when they're, maintenance projects, maintaining the forest roads, maintaining the buildings, that kind of thing. The policy consideration here is, do we change how we budget where we build in maintenance lines for various departments so that they can take care of things in the event they come up? If you do that, the only thing about that is then you're designating levy dollars in the budget for that maintenance. And in the past, those maintenance things have either been remaining levy dollars or coming out of the fund balance. So the committee recommended we try it for a year and see how it goes with the $3,000. Regarding the Register of Deeds, the one-time purchase of the new Scan Pro system, the $10,000 expenditure, the committee recommended we do make that expenditure. The district attorney request for a 0.4 FTE for a part-time DA investigator. This came in at the 11th hour of request to the administrator, and actually probably the 13th hour, and we referred it to the board because of the lateness. However, it also has to do with the priority 1 and 2 regarding public safety. Public safety and highway, I wasn't in attendance Tuesday, but it's my understanding there was no recommendation made on this one way or the other. What remains for general government, in addition to evaluating what the other committees have looked at, are the 3 facility lines, the 2 museum lines, and the recycling. And hopefully everybody's had a chance to look over these since the October meeting. The facilities all relate to the Justice Center for the most part. The AEDs go in other buildings as well, but a lot of them in the Justice Center. Then you've got the LED lighting in the courtroom and the $75,000 for audio and video in the courtroom. What's important to note here, I think, and Mo can most definitely step in and provide further clarity on this, is the Justice Center is starting to age. And unless we anticipate for improvements and modernizations and kind of space them out over time and recognize it's going to take money going in each year, we're going to be in a similar situation with the Justice Center that we presently face with Government Center, where we haven't updated, we haven't modernized, and then we get a big bill. Mo, do you want to add anything to that, especially like the roof and stuff like that?
No, Chad, you're correct. And this is a way to program these things out and not have that large bill at the end. One of the things coming up that we're going to be continually working on is the roof and trying to get that life expectancy another 10 years down the road. So we'll be having recurring costs in the next couple budget cycles for repairs to that roof on the Justice Center, so we don't get hit with a larger repair bill.
All right. The 2 line items related to museum for consideration by the committee: repaint and the exterior repairs to the old schoolhouse. It's a $9,000 one-time cost. But again, this relates to the discussion regarding Historical Society. And then the annual funding request for a full-time director. The request came in at $25,000 ongoing. The administrator has approved and recommended a one-time funding of $10,000 for marketing and development to see how they do. But it's for the committee and the board to consider whether it's fulfilling the full request and whether it's ongoing. And then for recycling, it's the replacement of the 1-ton truck for plowing. But it also gets into the bigger question, and Mo can again speak to this. As you all saw in your capital plan when we went through the budget, the recycling center is going to need some significant capital expenditure over the course of the next 5 years in order to modernize and just continue operations. And Mo may want to expand on that.
Yeah, currently this is the only request in for the recycling center as we go through the presentation next month on the program to develop. This is a truck that's 18 years old, used by staff for hauling and items for the recycling center. But it will require more costs in the future. That'll be a discussion point next month.
So what guidance we request from the committee is, of these requests specifically for general government, do you want them added to the final budget for the board to vote on November 10th? Do they stay off for now? These are the amendments for the committee to consider. That's all I've got. I'm sure the administrator has more.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mike.
With respect to the museum, if this is an appropriate time, I would like to propose that the committee recommend that we do fund the $25,000 amount. I think it would be a very wise investment. I think there are a lot of things that full-time position at the museum could do right away, and I think it relates to the collection itself and what it entails. And if it's appropriate, I would like to suggest that be a recommendation of this committee. As to the other matters, people maybe have their more knowledge than I do about the specifics of some of those.
I would say, Mike, you put it into a motion to add it as a budget amendment. And if you
At this meeting, Russ?
Yeah, I'd say this would be your last chance.
I would so move.
I'd second that with the condition. I'd like to talk to Mike about that.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
So I would second that, Mike, but I would want to add in there that we would only do it after an approved MOU is in place. So here's a good example. Instead of just handing them a check, I want to make sure there's conditions with. So
Is there a discussion going on about an MOU with the museum?
well, there will be an executive or with staff. I just want to make sure. I second it and I'm fine with it. One of the things that we need to do in the MOU is I've been asked to sit on the museum, be the liaison for the county board to do that. I would just like to see an MOU tied with the additional funding. So that, I second it as long as you would amend your, that we create a new MOU before we hand them a check.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
I agree with that.
All right, so the motion is to recommend the 25,000, the annual funding for full-time director to the museum after an MOU, a new MOU is in place.
Correct.
Any more discussion on it?
If I would just, and obviously it's your decision, but let me just say a little background information that I think is relevant. I know that and I support the museum, but they have new board members. They've taken a much more aggressive approach, which is great. And they came last minute and have changed their request 3 times now. What I would say is the reason that we didn't want to go the 25,000 initially at a recurring rate is a couple of reasons. One, since this is new, we wanted to give them an opportunity to demonstrate that they can do what they say they're going to do, meaning they said with this executive director, they could increase marketing, increase fundraising, and so on. The other thing is if you looked at their financial statements, they have a substantial sum of cash on hand. And if this is something they could believe in, again, we're supporting them. My recommendation was a $10,000 boost this year to demonstrate that. The amount of cash they have actually exceeds what both the EDC and tourism have on hand combined. So that's why I was just a little more conservative with it. I thought it was good judgment, but I can't argue with the fact that the museum and the historical perspective of Polk County is key. So that's just, the final thing I'll say, we did request per your recommendations that we have a board member put on the board. They did not do that, but rather say at this point, we'll let him be a liaison and a non-voting member. That's fine. We may want to work on that MOU to say, no, in the future, we would expect that to be part of it. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
So with the motion, until the MOU is changed satisfactory to Polk County, there will be no payment.
Yeah, there'll be a budget. That's the way
It
I'm.
will be budgeted, but it will not be paid until the MOU that Polk County needs in place.
And I would like to respond to the administrator on that, and Mo is involved in this too, is all those things are true what the administrator said. So that's exactly why you guys can update that MOU for the administrator and staff to make sure that those things are in place. Now, to me, the last minute, that comment I find hard to believe where last minute, we're budgeting $45,000 for a truck when we said we didn't want it. That's last minute.
It's not in the budget.
Well, you just asked for it to be put in the budget. We just got presented today. I'm assuming the administrator signed off on this presentation and Mo, and I'll get to that, but we're on the MOU right now. But I mean, just be careful sometimes when staff likes to say to us, it's a last minute decision. When I can tell you, I've been here for 6 years and staff has certainly had the advantage of last minute throw it at us. So I don't really take that comment very lightly.
All right, let's stay with the motion.
Sorry, Chair.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more? I mean, we're not done with the technical amendments, only this one,
Just one.
unless someone brings another one up, but anything more on this one? If not, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Aye. Carries. Any other
I would like to make another,
recommendation?
yeah, I would like to make sure that, I got two of them. One is I definitely do not want to see the county spending $45,000 for a plow truck. They could easily source plowing out.
None of these are going in the budget unless we move them.
Okay, so I don't even have, so I'm not gonna
If it's
move it and
not-
let it
if no
go.
one brings it up,
Oh,
it's
is that
done.
true?
Yep.
Okay.
Is
So,
there any other ones on here that we wanna, because the administrator didn't put any of these in. But these came from committees. That one must have came from the, whoever had recycling, that committee.
well, that's us. We didn't put it in there. That was staff putting it in there. We didn't put 45 grand in the budget for a plow truck.
Well, we
No, Chris, it's not.
actually haven't put anything in the budget. The administrator presented his budget. Now is our opportunity to add to it.
Add to the budget or take away from the budget.
Well, we'll take away at the board meeting.
Oh, we can't do that today.
I don't think so. I think we're just dealing with, we're dealing with amendments to technical amendments. I think we're only dealing with this list.
So we're only allowed to deal with this document here. If I have another amendment, I need to do that at the board.
Well, it says regarding amendments and technical budget amendments. So, well, let's maybe do the list first, try to get through the list. And then if there's additional ones that we want to.
So if I can clarify, so these were additional funding requests from staff that were presented to the administrator. The administrator reviewed all of them because there were a lot, recommended some in his initial budget. These are the ones not recommended by the administrator, but since not recommended, put forward to the committees to consider. As far as anything outside this list, the committees at this time can also add additional, which I would then put into the budget resolution.
The administrator did not recommend a new truck. It was staff that recommended it.
That
Case
is
staff first
correct.
did.
What's that?
Chris, these are things that were submitted over time by all departments or divisions. What, as Chad said, these are the items on this list that I said no to, that we did not put into the budget. However, we thought if they may have had some merit, we wanted to provide you with this list of opportunities, like the museum, to say, we feel differently. As policymakers, we think we should fund the museum at the $25,000 rate. So this
All right,
is
I
your opportunity.
understand. I misunderstood a little bit what this list was. So apologize for getting a little cranky there, Administrator Netherland.
I'm used to it.
Brandon, you have something?
Yeah, I'd like to be able to pass the Register of Deeds request for the software. Do I need to make a motion to include that in the budget to
Yeah,
open the
make it
discussion?
in a motion form so we,
Okay, I make a motion that we include the request for software from the Register of Deeds office in the budget,
How much is that for?
$10,000.
$1,000.
And is there a second? I'll actually second it just for the sake of discussion. So,
Hey, I would like to clarify for the committee, this one was recommended by Environmental Services.
all right.
So I guess I'd like to learn just a little bit more about what exactly it is that they're asking for and what the benefit would be. Not being on environmental services, I didn't have that information. I didn't know if there's anybody here who knows a little, can tell me a little bit more about that.
I can maybe help the committee. So presently, Environmental Services, or corrections, Register of Deeds, has their documents and all on microfiche machines. And they have a much older scanning and printing system that prints those documents out for end users. The end users include the public, include the Register of Probate, to the Sheriff's Office to a small extent, and land information and land and water. This system replaces that system, which is now outdated. It includes a trade-in for that old system, very minimal trade-in, but this is the final price. But this is a digital scanning and printing system that allows them to allow the end users to print off and to search historical records.
Would this be available online to the public? Or would this just be like an internal thing they would use in their office?
To my understanding, Supervisor Duncanson, it's a physical device in the office that the public or register of probate or end users can come to the office and use and print stuff out. I don't know one way or the other if it benefits anything online.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Did you motion it with recommendation, or
Yeah,
I guess the Environmental Service Committee already?
Well, can I amend my motion to accept the Environmental Services Committee recommendation to include this in the budget?
I have a question. Administrator, why did you not recommend this to be in the budget? If the environmental services did ask for it. There you go, another easy question.
Actually, Mr. Nelson, they approved it over the top of what I had suggested. I did not put it in initially. I think it was more of trying to weigh all the different requests we got for various equipment or software needs and so on. At the time, I think it's a worthy project. I felt it's something that we may want to delay till next year. But
there's no urgency that you have to do it right now, like something's going to break or fail.
Well, I don't think anything's going to break or fail. I think it would probably help in efficiency in that office and so on. But at this point, I think we did some other things in her office. But again, it's a reasonable request. I initially said no, but that's why we put it on this list so that you all could have your input.
And if I can add a little clarity to it, so the administrator did approve a request for $20,000 for scanning services, for digitizing their record books. It's been an ongoing project. He approved another $20,000 for this year. This request came in from the Register of Deeds. Bob Kazmierski, the Environmental Services Director, had this on his capital plan for last year. And I think that's what led to it, is the Register of Deeds asked it for this year. It was actually on the capital plan for next year. And since we were funding the $20,000 for the scanning, as the administrator said, he felt it could be deferred since it was on next year's capital plan.
Well, if we don't approve this or vote no in a positive, does it go away? Or does it still go because environmental services brought it?
So you will, when you meet for a committee of the whole on the budget, you guys will again look at this list along with the committee recommendations. So it'll still be there November 10th.
When did this get added to the budget? When did this come up that they needed this additional funding? You said it was on a capital improvement, but when was the official request made to do it now? At the last minute or not?
No, sir. I got the Register of Deeds booklet with requests about the same time I got the Environmental Service Director's booklet, and then I went through the requests with the respective directors, and so this was early on when we were compiling all the original stuff back in August, I believe.
This seems historically, Chair, that the Register of Deeds seems to throw things in at the last minute. I just remember every year we seem like we always approve something else they need. I'm just curious why they wouldn't anticipate things and fund it every year, right? These upgrades that they need, and why every year do they come back and ask for additional money? That's just, maybe I'm not really remembering accurately. I could be wrong, but historically it just seems like they do this kind of, that's kind of the normal way of business. just my observation.
All right, Mike, did you want to comment before we vote?
No,
All right, we're gonna call the question. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed?
Aye.
What does that do? What does 2 nays and 2 ayes do?
The motion fails.
Failed. Any other items on here anyone would like to move on? And it sounds like all these items are going to be on committee of the whole. It's just whether or not this committee puts a recommendation in on any of them. So if not on this list, are there any other items? Chris, did you have another item?
It was on this list.
No, doesn't matter.
So Chad, can you pull up, or Vince, the UW extension budget? I had a question about this 0.25, and I brought it up before about the county funds a like master gardener program. And I wanted to make a motion to, I've had some calls on this one, why the county is funding UW extension. And I may have the wording wrong, but if you guys could specifically identify what that is.
I got to look for the UW contract. The administrator can speak to this. I'll try to find the contract and pull it up while he's speaking.
Way to go, Chad.
If you're talking about the master gardener, being at home, I don't have all that information in front of me, but there is what Chad will be able to tell you what the 0.25 or if it's whatever it is. But this is a master gardener who works in several counties. They provide information on growing, agriculture, and so on to various groups. The one that I know of firsthand that she works with might be Endeavors. And I believe it's Endeavors that has their greenhouse. They train other people to become master gardeners who in turn work at places like Endeavors and so on. Is that enough time, Chad? I've been dragging it out.
Would they train anyone at Prolon to be a master gardener? Is this, that's what I'm wondering. I've just had people ask that, why is the county government, and I don't even know if master gardener is the right word. I was searching for the right identification of that job description.
Yeah, I think whether or not a specific greenhouse would have it, a greenhouse like Prolon would hire somebody with some educational background in that. I think the master gardener just certifies that they've had the proper training, experience, and knowledge to which they could be a teacher, which they could be a resource for an organization or a business.
You have Kristen Bruder who said she could speak to it. Kristen,
Okay.
I made you a presenter.
And that would be helpful because I want to clarify on the budget for the committee. So UW is a hybrid process with their budget. We pay for one county FTE, and then we have a contract that covers our other FTEs. That's what I was looking for, and I don't have it quick like that. So Kristen can clarify how the contract works.
Yes, thank you. So the 0.25 is a horticulture position that supports the Master Gardener program. It's one of the programs that the horticulture position covers. It is a contract between the state and the county, and I'm just trying to pull up the contract as well. The county actually pays like $8,000, I believe, on that 0.25. So it's not a large amount because it's contracted between the county and the state. It's a shared position between the county and the state. So I'm just pulling.
What's the specific name of the position?
It is a horticulture educator.
Yeah.
So the county actually pays $10,583 on that position. It covers.
I understand. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to remove that from the budget, that position. I'll make that amendment to it, the county board, and I don't know that I would get general government to support it right now, but I just wanted to make sure that being upfront and doing it in front of people, this is the right time to bring it up. I don't think the county should be in the business of horticultural education. I haven't seen anything in the community where it has shown as a benefit. From what I hear from agricultural people, UW Extension really and the whole program doesn't really help anymore. People are not reaching out to UW Extension for these services, and I don't know why Polk County government is funding a horticulture person to teach people master gardening. You can find that on the internet. There's so many resources that can be done for free. And I just find if we don't start cutting some of our old ways of doing business, just to keep someone employed, this is just one of them that I think is probably throwing money down the drain. So that's my motion.
You got that motion? It was a lengthy one, but did you get it?
Down the drain. I want to eliminate that
So the
0.25
motion is to eliminate the funding.
for the
For that.
horticulture educator.
So is there a second? So we can discuss it?
I'm just letting you know I'm going to do it. Try.
I'll make the second so we can have a discussion.
Sorry, and I criticize Mr. Pritchard for doing what I just did. I should have just made the motion and waited.
And I should have stopped this
You should have.
sooner, but I was hoping the clerk would get down your motion. All right, so any more discussion? Mike, you want to weigh in on this one?
Oh, I'm kind of thinking that it probably not an essential county function.
Okay, so we're gonna call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we'll be sending it as a recommendation to reduce that funding.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mike.
just a question, and I don't know if it's on the list, but could Chad say, or whoever, how we left things with the Act 150 for the libraries, the 95%?
So
Is that what's currently in the proposal to the board?
So yes, the board passed the resolution to fund the Act 150 at 95%. So in my present draft resolution, which I'm going to show you the draft in a few minutes, it shows the 95% funding.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other technical amendments, either on that list or otherwise, that anyone wants to bring up at this time? We will say we will be done with that for now, and we'll move on to the discussion and possible action regarding resolution 5520 to adopt the Polk County operating and capital budget and to set the 2021 tax levy.
I'll make the motion to approve that resolution.
Second?
I think we need a big presentation, to
No,
be honest.
I don't even, it's actually not to approve it, is it? Isn't it to move it to county board as amended?
It is, Mr. Chair, and there are the last minute adjustments to the resolution, which will be done on November 10th if you guys make any changes to what it is. So it's just authorizing us to move it to the county board. And then, of course, I have to tweak the resolution at the last minute if there's any changes made.
All right, we don't need any discussion on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we got discussion of possible action. Resolution 5220, authorize purchase of 78.54 acres. Someone like to maybe bring it to the floor so we should have a motion to discuss. I would make the motion to bring it to the floor.
I'll second Pritchard.
And anyone have discussion before we get a presentation?
How long of a presentation is it?
Make it 10 minutes. Plus any questions you guys have.
I'll hold off on my questions then until you do your thing.
Okay.
5 minutes?
I'll go as fast as I can. So this is Resolution 5220 has already been through Environmental Services Committee and they have approved it. The reason I'm in front of you today is if we go ahead with this purchase, we're looking in the vicinity of $50,000 to $80,000 to make this happen. It requires your permission. Want to bring you into exactly where we're talking. We're in the town of McKinley. Next page, please. Up in the northeast part of Polk County. The green would be the forest up a little bit. Scrolling in a little more, we're north of 270th Avenue, east of County Road O, and south of County Road W. Everything green here again is county forest property. The red highlighted boxes would be the potential land purchase that we are talking about. Next page, please. And just zooming in here, went over this with the Environmental Services Committee of why I brought it in front of them. Essentially, what we're looking at is we would gain access to this county forest property by way of easement to 270th Avenue in this crosshatch area. The easement, if Polk County purchased the property, would not be impacting those landowners. Landowners to the north, here and here, would still have access to their property if we did go ahead and purchase this property. Next slide, please. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, it is 78 acres. 46 acres of it is wetland, of which that wetland consists of the Clam River, which is a trout stream. Upland-wise, we're talking only 22 acres, but the main driver in me bringing it to Environmental Services again was public access to existing county ownership. Go up a little bit, Scott, please. And went through this according to the 15-year county forest plan. And pretty much the final say in it is it met 6 of the 7 criteria. The only criteria that it does not meet is it does not provide a priority trail connection. And next slide, please. So this is kind of the nuts and bolts associated why I'm here in front of General Committee. And to further this process, need your permission to proceed. I've got to begin with an appraisal on this property so that I can begin the process of signing letters of intent, applying for loans, and the funding for this particular project will not require any budgetary dollars. Now, let me clarify that this will take tax dollars to purchase this because the forestry department operates at a gain every year. Basically, the forestry department puts money into the general fund. But any dollar that we spend on this land purchase takes away from the dollars that we put into the general fund. So it is the cost to the taxpayers. If you guys give the blessing on this, essentially the next step would be appraisal, letter of intents, and then I go ahead and apply for an interest-free county forest loan. And I would have to take the loan for the entire amount, which at this point can't talk purchase price. We would have to do that in a closed session after appraised price. That's why on the resolution on the left-hand side, I've got anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 because I don't know what that final price is going to be. We're going to have a negotiation before I can say, yeah, it's going to be $70,000. After I apply for the interest-free county forest loan, what happens is that is paid back. For an example, if I cut $100,000 worth of timber, in that given year, I would have to write a check to the state for 20% of that. So in the example that I'm using, a loan of, we cut $100,000, I'd have to write a check to the state for 20 grand until that loan balance is paid off. The second part of this would be to apply for a Knowles Nelson stewardship. And there is a county forest sub-program, and what that does for the county is that the state pays for half of that land purchase. That would require this land purchase to be enrolled in the county forest program. We'd have to do an entry. That would add 78 acres to the county forest program. Environmental Services Committee, they brought up some good questions in terms of what's that going to do to the tax base of the town of McKinley. I had that discussion with the chairman of the town of McKinley, and they are in support of Polk County enrolling this land in the Polk County Forest if we so choose to do so. With that, the financing is in lines 20 through 25 in the resolution, and I went over that fast. I guess I'll open it up to any questions you have here or online. Yes?
I just have a quick question. If the county were to purchase this property, what would be the purpose of us owning it? Would it be to sell timber? Would it be opened up to the public for any type of hunting or trout fishing? Or what would we do with it?
So basically, it fit right into the mission of the county forest program, which is to the production of raw forest materials, harvesting through loggers, recreation, protection of the environment, which includes water quality, public access.
So this is actually coming, to fund this is actually coming out of profits that your piece of what you do. It's not, we're going to take money out of general fund. We're not going to take money currently out of any money the county has. This is money out of profits that you will generate over the next so many years.
That's exactly correct. Sure. And if I had a bad year, I cut $0 worth of timber.
They don't get a check.
They don't get a check, and it's an interest-free loan. But, you know, in a particular year, in the example, let's use the $100,000 in that particular year. You know, that would be $30,000 to $40,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
10 would only go in.
This is the kind of stuff that I feel like my constituents would support, in this kind of investment. So I completely support what you're doing here.
Any other questions from folks online?
Mike, you got any comment, question? Are you there, Mike?
Sounds good.
You said it sounds good. So we got a motion to
Make a motion to recommend the purchase or resolution 52-20.
have a motion to bring it to the floor, so we'll take that motion.
Is that proper?
No, I'd say it's okay. Motion to recommend it. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion carries.
And you will see this accounting for it too. So thank you.
Yeah, we're just moving it along. All right, how about the easement on Old Highway Yard by the village of Balsam Lake? Request for an easement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. My map that I had showing the areas in my office, but the old yard there in Balsam Lake, our lower yard where we have 3 salt sheds, the village approached me on an easement on the west portion of that property. There's a swamp there. They have a trail that comes in from the south and goes to the north, but they'd like an easement on our property to connect that trail where it doesn't go through the swamp. And what I was looking at versus having the surveyor do a bunch of surveying to get this easement in first, if the board or the committee was willing to give me the authorization, I'd have the village put the trail in first and then write the easement, so I know exactly where it's going. This should have no impact for highway usage down there. It would be on the west side of that property.
All right, does anyone want to take some action on this?
I would take action on it. I just think, Mo, can you explain a little bit more what the trail is and what are they trying to, why are they coming to you besides going around the swamp? Can you explain to the committee what they're actually going to use the trail for?
I believe this does the connectivity for the Balsam Lakes Village walking trail that they have that encompasses, goes around Balsam Lake. And the point it has here where it comes to our property has that swamp. So in the summer, they can't utilize that trail, making that loop.
And it doesn't impact any operations of the county at that, on that property, does it?
No, sir. It has no impact on operations on the lower yard there.
I make a motion to approve Mo to move forward with allowing the village to make their trail connect.
Any more discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, committee.
All right, discussion and possible action on the responses received from the RFP issued regarding the lime quarry. And Malia will maybe let us know if we need a closed session on it.
Well, Mr. Chair, it really depends upon what level of detail you're going to get into. If you're going to get into any level of detail, then I would recommend a closed session, yes.
Are we going to get into any detail?
I would think we would, but it's up to you.
Make a motion, we go into closed session to discuss the responses received from the RFP issue regarding the lime quarry under Wisconsin Statute 1985 1E for discussion.
I'll second that.
And maybe before we go into closed session, could we review and update our work plan, maybe identify some subjects? So once we kind of block everybody off, they don't have to, there'd be no reason really to come back on, or is that okay? All right. What do we got on our, do we need to update our 2020 work plan? Vince, you got any work for us to do?
Chad, do you have any?
Well, I mean, it depends on, the only thing I can think out of the ordinary for it at this time will be if the facility update progresses. If we decide to move with that, we will definitely need on the work plan evaluation of bonding or financing options. However, where that fits in, I can't tell you on the timetable right now. But that should be included on the work plan. You know, if nothing else, perhaps Vince, if it stays in the budget to consider it, maybe we put it on the January committee for work plan.
Certainly.
All right. Does anybody else have anything we should get on our 2020 work plan?
So the one other question I have that I'm still a little unclear on regarding MOU evaluation, is that going to be executive committee or general government? Because if it's general government, we do need to add that to the work plan as a standing thing. We need to pick a month and do it annually, because I think that's what everybody's wanting. So which committee is going to have it?
What if we got a funding source, like today, we just approved funding for the museum, right? And it's tied to an MOU. I certainly think it wouldn't hurt to have it on our agenda. If something comes up, we can deal with it. If it's not, it's not. But at least then they know, general government would like to see this MOU.
So you're saying on our 2020 work plan, we should keep the reviews of the MOUs
Yeah,
on?
why not?
Yeah, my only question is that going to be executive or general government? I think that question came up last hour, and it just needs to be on somebody's work plan, whichever committee is going to house it.
Well, the executive doesn't have a work plan, so.
Well, I was going to work on one for to present next month. That was on my list.
Maybe we're almost talking about subject matters for the next meeting that we would want to.
There.
So we'll put the MOUs on subject matters and not the work plan. So that'll lead us right into subject matters for the next meeting. Well, the MOUs, we definitely want on the agenda so we can talk about them.
I think so. Let's hash that over one more time.
And then is there some of these, the space analysis and bonding updates, COVID budget updates, some of those will just stay on, so we keep getting reports on them?
Yep.
I feel like, clearly there's concerns about the recycling center resolution. I mean, I hear it loud and clear. I think we should maybe look at that resolution one more time in general government and have when Mo's here and look at the presentation. And I certainly don't need to send something. Can we just put that on there? I'll leave it at that.
Yep.
Sorry. Stop me, Russ.
Well, yeah, I should have.
Yeah, you should have.
So I would like to add 2 things for December. A presentation by IT regarding an update on the 2018 security audit and the mitigation efforts. It won't exceed 5 to 8 minutes. We'll keep it short. And then a presentation by Human Resources regarding the implementation of the Kronos system. Won't exceed 5 to 8 minutes. But both of those have been significant processes, and I think general government should be updated now that they've both pretty much been completed.
All right, we'll have those on. And did we ever, Chris, help me on presentations, did we ever kind of set a time on them so that they wouldn't just go on forever? Maybe we should have a discussion on presentations.
I don't remember a time, but I will assure you neither of those will exceed 5 to 8 minutes.
Those, but maybe put that on length of presentations, at least for our committee. Other committees can do what they want.
Well, I think it's good policy to review because I get requests even for county board. There, you can sell people kind of want to do presentations, and again, I would like to know what the rest of the supervisors think about these lengthy presentations sometimes.
Would you prefer to put it on?
Or maybe one of the federal government. Let's let one committee kick the can and see what it comes up like. I have one thing too on our funding for the meth epidemic in Polk County. I know we put a lot of money into it. I know we recently just had some other big issues in public. I really would like to know from a funding aspect, our dollars we're putting into the meth issue versus what the return is and what we're doing about it. I'd like to see that somewhere. What are we doing about it? Where are we putting our money where our mouth is? Are we doing something about it? And is there? I know you got your program that you guys have been kind of revamping, and CJCC, is that the right CJCC?
What you'd like to put it on as an agenda item and get a.
I'd like to, know what's going on with it all.
So, do you kind of want an outline of funding as it relates to CJCC, law enforcement, the courts, everything?
Yeah, I'd like to know if you could generally say this is what Polk County spends on our meth epidemic. I mean, we seem to have a COVID update, but what's our meth update?
Anything else before we go into our closed session?
That's all I got.
All right. So if the motion to go into closed session is still good as the second, we'll do a roll call vote Chris,
Yes.
Fran, Mike?
Yes.
Yes. And who will be in our closed session? Vince,
I will be too.
Leah,
Yep, Mo, Chad, and Malia.
John Bonifaz, supervisor, will be in. All right, let's mute everyone who's not in and close a few doors, and we'll be in closed session. All right, who's leading us?
Hold on one second. Scott, can you shut down the West Conference Room for this?
Still Mo in there.
Who's gonna be in?
Mo has to be in, right?
Yep,
Okay, I've got Mike Pritchard in there as well.
yep. I don't know, they were in my mailbox.
Just so we can, these are public documents.
You should just keep them private.
Leah, are these public documents?
Well, I think that at this point, the contents of them, if we're going to two of them in opening discussions, I would say that unless they've already been distributed, they're not yet public documents.
All right, so we should turn them in.
I would ask that you turn them in. I understand that some were sent out. The only bargaining issue, of course, is each of the bidders then seeing what the other person had bid and then saying, oh, well, let me change my bid, let me do this, let me do that. That might be appropriate at some point, but it's really not so much a legal decision. It would qualify as not yet a public record as long as that's the direction that the committee wants to go.
I don't care, I mean, we've already got the numbers, I guess we don't need the.
Oh, you can just leave them there.
Yeah. All right, we got everything done except adjourning. Without a motion, we'll just stay in discussion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I just like looking at the administrator's picture today. I just want to tell you, you look really pretty good for not feeling well.
I'll comment on your looks later.
Did we get a second to adjourning?
Yes, I second it.
Now we did.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, we'll stand adjourned at 11.
I don't really want to carry these around with me.
5.